podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
This is the FPL Draft Zone, your fantasy team's best signing of the season.
New year, new game week as draft managers get ready for Game Week 20. We've got a quick look at all the fixtures ahead of that waiver deadline as Liverpool and Arsenal try to extend their good runs of form. And we talk waivers with our top picks for each match. Hello and welcome to the FPL Draft Zone, a podcast all about, yes you guessed it, there's a clue in the title, Draft FPL. I'm Dom Crofts, Happy New Year, I hope you had a lovely Christmas, and today we're going to have a quick fire fly through Game Week 20 with that all-important waiver deadline on the horizon on Friday the 3rd of January at 11am GMT. So let's not waste any time, let's look at all the fixtures that will go a long way to deciding if it is indeed a happy new year for you and your draft team. And it all kicks off on Saturday lunchtime with a game between Spurs and Newcastle United. Spurs have basically got no defenders available for this one, with Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie and Ben Davis all out, and they take on a Newcastle side who have won their last 4 games in a row without conceding. Yikes and yowzers. Spurs actually won this game 4-1 last season, and it does tend to be a fairly bonkers fixture in general, with Newcastle winning the reverse game 4-0 at St James's Park last season and 6-1 the season before, and the season before that Spurs won 5-1 at home, so goals are going to be guaranteed. They are very much on the agenda in this one, and in terms of waiver picks, I would try my best, if I were you, to stock up on Newcastle midfield assets if they are free. So look out for a Joe Linton or a Jacob Murphy if they're available in your league. Joe Linton has 23 points from his last 2 appearances for Eddie Howe's side, and Murphy has returned in 4 of his last 5. And with Fabian Schär suspended, we may see the return of a certain Sven Botman in this one, who could be a good long-term pickup if you do want a way into the Toons defence. As for Spurs, they are an attacking threat, there is no doubt about that, but I suspect their key offensive assets will already be taken, and it goes without saying that their backline is very much a hard avoid. There are 5 games kicking off at 3pm on Saturday. Aston Villa take on Leicester in a Midlands derby, and with Morgan Rogers out for the hosts, the likelihood is that Leon Bailey will start on the right again alongside John McGinn, and given the calibre of the opposition they're up against, either of those midfielders could very easily return for you this weekend. As for who plays on the left in Rodgers' absence, Jacob Ramsey returned from injury against Brighton, so he would be the obvious replacement, but he does appear to be made of fiberglass, so whether he is ready to start, I'm not entirely sure. If he isn't, they may switch McGinn wide and then push Yuri Tielemans into that number 10 role, which they did do a few weeks ago to good effect as well, and I suspect that that is the way they will go. Leicester haven't disgraced themselves in the last 2 weeks against Liverpool and Manchester City. They played okay against both those sides, but they did lose both those matches, and I think they'll lose this one as well. But if you disagree, Mavididi created 0.48 XGI against Pep Guardiola's side, so he could have some joy against a Villa defence that is likely to be missing Pau Torres through injury and may well feature Matty Cash at right back in direct opposition to Mavididi. And Matty Cash, for all his positives going forward, is not the most defensively astute fullback you're ever going to see. It's Bournemouth against Everton at the Vitality, and Bournemouth have been excellent this season. They've lost just 5 times in the league. They're a win off 5th, and they are unbeaten in their last 7. Everton, on the other hand, have been defensively excellent of late, but they did suffer a bit of a blip last time out when they lost at home to Nottingham Forest. And it will be quite interesting to see how they approach this one, because Bournemouth don't have the reputation of an Arsenal or a Manchester City, who Everton have played in their last 2 away games, and they set up very defensively for both. They may well try to be a little more expansive, a little bit more ambitious in this one, and if they are, I think they're going to lose, because Bournemouth are an excellent team. Ouattara has really impressed since coming in for the injured Tavernier. He scored a great goal late on against Fulham last time out to rescue a point for the Cherries. He's got 29 points across the last 5 game weeks. Enes Unal may well be worth a punt if you're in desperate need of a third striker. He started against Crystal Palace 2 matches ago, so could well be rotated back in for this one, and he'll certainly get 15 to 20 minutes off the bench as a worst case scenario. And I'd also be looking at Bournemouth defenders for this one as well, because Everton have created just 0.6 xg in their last 2 games, and that figure gets even worse when you look at their away games only. In fact, you have to go back to November the 2nd and their away game against Southampton for the last time they actually created more than 1 xg on the road. So I'd back Bournemouth to win here, and I would back them to win to 0, and that means a Zabarnyi or Huijsen or even a James Hill could be worth picking up. Hill started at right back against Fulham with Smith injured, and he picked up an assist as well. It's Crystal Palace against Chelsea at Selhurst Park. Chelsea have lost their last 2 games now, and Palace have lost just once in their last 8. I can't see Enzo Maresca rotating for this one. I think he's going to go full strength. Most of their offensive options will likely be taken in your league and larger leagues across the country, but a Sancho could be on the waivers if you're lucky. Defensively, Marlo Gusto or Reece James could come in for Disasi at right back. I would expect it to be Gusto, but I'm not even sure I'd back Chelsea to win this. I think there'll be goals. I think both teams will score, and that means I probably wouldn't go near either backline unless you're hoping for an attacking return. As for the more offensive options, if there is an Enzo Fernandez or an Ismail Assar still floating about, they would be worth picking up, but I suspect that is unlikely. Eddie Nketiah, he's not going to start this one, but if you do love a good narrative, he is an ex-Chelsea youngster. He scored twice against them a few seasons ago for Arsenal. So again, if you are desperate for a third striker option and you're happy to rotate between a number of forwards who may pop up with a return from limited minutes, Nketiah could be an option this week. Maybe, just maybe, a goal is written in the stars. He scored against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup, of course, against his other former team just a few weeks ago. Is Manchester City against West Ham United at the Etihad, 2 teams that look utterly devoid of quality, but with Jared Bowen out injured and with Julian Lopetegui still flailing around aimlessly looking for an answer to all his woes, I actually think Manchester City will win this one, and I think they might even keep a clean sheet as well. So for once, the likes of Akanji and Ake could be options if they're still available on the waivers in your league. Last time out, West Ham created 0.52 xg against Liverpool, and while that was against Liverpool, this is a trend that comes with Julian Lopetegui. He did it at Wolves as well, creating very little in attacking areas. I think they created less than any other team in the Premier League in the season he was in charge at Wolves, and they've now lost their best offensive option as well in Bowen. So I can only see one winner here. Haaland owners can expect a second successive return from the Norwegian, as he has a good track record against the Hammers. And now that Savio is off the mark, if he's available, he should be full of confidence going into this one. Pep also spoke very highly of James McAtee after that Leicester City win. He's a very attack-minded midfielder. He was on loan at Sheffield United last season. He got 6 attacking returns for the Blades, playing in what was one of the worst top-flight teams I've ever seen. So he could be a decent low-key 5th midfield option if A, you think he can break into that City starting 11, and B, if you think City can return to some semblance of form over the next few weeks. As for A, breaking into that City starting 11, let's face it, he's never had a better chance of doing just that. It's Southampton against Brentford at St Mary's. Paul Onuachu is another striker who falls into that category as a player you can rotate in and out if you need a third forward option. He's started the last 2 games under the new manager Ivan Juric. He has scored regularly for every single club he's played for, except for Southampton. But a home game against Brentford, maybe this could be the one that offers an opportunity for him to break his duck, because Brentford have the second worst away record in the division after 9 games, and if they lose this, they will have the worst away record in the division. All hail Paul Onuachu! Tyler Dibbling would be another decent pickup this week if you're in need of a midfield option. He scored at Palace last time out, and Kevin Schade should return to the starting 11 for Brentford for this one, so if you fancy a bit of bees action, he could be your man. As could Nathan Collins, who has been a very good defensive asset for Brentford, at least from an attacking point of view. Having said all that though, call me crazy, I actually think Southampton are going to win this. We shall see. The late game on Saturday is between Brighton and Arsenal at the Amex. Brighton haven't won in their last 7, but they have only lost 2 of those, drawing the other 5. Arsenal are now unbeaten in 9. The Gunners will be without Urian Timber for this one, so Thomas Partey will probably have to slot in at right back, and that means a change up in the midfield. It should mean a return for Declan Rice in the number 6 position. Mikel Merino scored his second goal of the season in the win over Brentford from that left 8 role. He will be a big threat from set pieces if he starts. The other alternative is Rice moving up to left 8 and Jorginho starting, but I think Arteta will go with Mourinho for his dual-winning ability against what is an energetic Brighton, and he could be a decent option if you're in need of a midfielder. Leo Trossard started the game against Brighton at the Emirates, and I think he will start here as well. I'm sure he'll get a lovely reception against his former team. Martinelli, that means, will be rested, because I do think Ethan Nwaneri will get another start. So if you want to root into Arsenal's front line, he could be a very astute pickup now for both the short and the long term. Because let's face it, Arsenal are really just one injury away from him becoming a regular now. So even if you don't start him in this one, if you can afford to get him in and hold him, that could reap dividends going forward. And Arsenal have got a host of injury-prone forwards, Martinelli and Gabriel Jesus chief amongst them. As for Brighton, there is a lot of rotation going on at the Amex these days, which makes them very difficult to predict, but Gruder seems to be playing regularly now. He started the last 3 and he got 7 attacking returns in 28 Bundesliga games last season, which works out at a return every 4 matches, and this will be his 4th match in a row. He has not yet had a return, so he is due, maybe. On Sunday, it's Fulham against Ipswich. For Fulham, Castagne is a decent pickup from a defensive perspective. He has good attacking potential, and this is a nice fixture from a Fulham point of view. Andreas Pereira got his second return in his last 4 games in the draw with Bournemouth, and he'll get chances to add to that tally against Sunday's opposition. Harry Wilson is in form as well. He's got 2 goals and an assist in his last 3. And Muniz is yet another striker who will give you a good 20 minutes a week and earn the odd start if you do need that third striker in your squad. A word on Fulham, by the way. Ipswich at home obviously represents a very nice fixture, but after that it's West Ham away, no Bowen and a manager with no clue. Then it's Leicester away, and then it's Manchester United at home. So if you do invest in some Fulham assets this week, you can hold them for a good few game weeks with a view to multiple returns. As for Ipswich, Fulham don't keep many clean sheets, so there is every chance that they will score here. Liam Delap is likely taken, but if they do score, maybe Amari Hutchinson could be key. He was excellent in the Championship for them last season after what was a very slow start for the club. He ended up with 10 goals and 6 assists, so 16 returns, but he only got 5 of those 16 returns in the first half of that season, and he's having a similarly slow start to this campaign with just 2 goals and an assist so far. But he did get a goal and he did pick up 9 points against Chelsea last time out, which suggests he may be about to rediscover that good form again. And as I said, with Delap almost certainly taken, Hutchinson is probably Ipswich's second best offensive asset. The 4:30pm GMT game on Sunday sees Liverpool take on Manchester United. On the last pod, we said Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, or frankly any Liverpool midfielder or forward with a pulse would represent a good pickup against Leicester, and so it proved with Jones scoring. He also got an assist against West Ham. He's got 14 points across the last 2 game weeks. He would represent a superb pickup if he is still miraculously free. And given the state of United right now, it's the same advice this week that it was on the last pod. A Szoboszlai, a Jones, anyone other than Gravenberch would give you a solid chance of a return in this one. And with Joe Gomez joining Konate on the sidelines, Jarrell Quansah represents a very easy route into that Liverpool backline if you want it. A backline that has been a little bit more shaky of late, but let's face it, it's Manchester United. There's every chance they're going to keep a clean sheet. And finally, on Monday night, it's Wolves against Nottingham Forest, otherwise known as the Nuno Espirito Santo derby. Forest are flying, but Wolves are doing well as well under their new manager, so this should be a fun game. Ilanga is having a moment for Forest. He started the last 3 games now and he's returned in all of them. Elliot Anderson has not returned in his last 3 games, but he's never gone more than 5 games without a return this season, so there's every chance he'll get one in this game. And with doubts over Murillo at the back, there could be another start for Murato. He started 2 of the last 3 and Forest kept clean sheets in both. He also picked up bonus points in one of those games. Nico Williams is also in great form right now if he is still on the waivers. As for Wolves, well, they look leaky at the back still, but they have started to find goals from sources other than Cunha, and given that he is now suspended, that's pretty good timing. Of all of them, Hwang Hee-chan should and could be the pick of the bunch. He's got 2 in 2 since his return from injury. And remember, this is a player who ended last season with 12 goals and 3 assists. And we've already seen what a bit of confidence can do for Gabby Jesus. So Hwang could be about to go on a bit of a run for Wolves as well, because momentum, my friends, is a magical thing. I should say, by the way, that Wolves' fixtures are absolutely disgusting for the foreseeable future. But for a 1-week punt, he could be the man to bring you some New Year's joy. So there we have it, a speedy rattle and roll through all the runners and all the riders for Game Week 20. But that is it for this week, because you need to set those waivers as soon as humanly possible. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this pod, give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts as a Christmas present, or some sort of Happy New Year treat with some kind words on Spotify. Make sure as well that you're following us on social media. We are on X and Instagram. Our handle is at FPL Draft Zone. We're also on Blue Sky, albeit intermittently, where our handle is at FPLDraftZone.bsky.social. But that is it for this week. Good luck ahead of the waivers, good luck ahead of free agency, and of course, good luck ahead of the 20th game week of the season. And until next time, it's bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.